Hi everyone, welcome back to the Rangers review. Hibs 3, Rangers 3, a crazy game which we will unpack as best we can just now before tomorrow's morning briefing. Rangers, the headline news. Chris, Jack, you're still there. Easter Road is Rangers contrived to drop more points on the road. They were ahead 2-0, they were ahead 3-2. They had a fantastic individual performance from Hamza Igamane, who's doing his utmost to try and win them that game, just as he did his utmost to try and spark a complete turnaround at Fir Park a week or so ago. But Rangers undone by their own defensive issues in the end. Conceded a penalty, which Philippe Clement was very unhappy about. And we'll get to that, Chris. But I think before you talk about the penalty today, you talk about whether it be the players, whether it be the manager, whether it be the enforced changes or maybe the lack of changes elsewhere, but the enforced changes in the defence because of another injury. That was a game that Rangers should have won, regardless of whether they conceded that penalty and conceded from it. And yet again, we're talking about Rangers dropping points away from Ibrox.
Very, very familiar issues, issues that we have seen over the course of the campaign. Issues that we've certainly seen away from home, and ultimately it's not good enough. The Rangers' away record speaks for itself so far this season. If they had come here on the back of an Old Firm win, and we spoke about it pre-match, all the hype and everybody in a good mood and everybody really buying into things again after Thursday. A lot of, I'm not saying all of the good work, but a lot of that good work has been undone by reverting to type. It wasn't as bad as I've had the pleasure of being at St Mirren and Motherwell over the last couple of weeks. It wasn't as bad as that. They were two first halves that were just really, really abject. The first half here was much more like it, or the first 20 minutes was much more like it. Rangers rather than giving themselves a mountain to climb, they put themselves in a really strong position. When it goes 2-0, you're thinking they should go on and win this one fairly comfortably. But the issues that have been evident at St Mirren, at Fir Park, at Tynecastle, at Rugby Park, at Pittodrie, those issues, namely defensive ones, they come back again. And if you have a guy like Igamane who scores 3 goals, he expects to be getting back on the team bus, not just with a match ball, but with 3 points as well. And he really should have done. But Rangers contrive to throw it away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, let's speak about the game chronologically. Chris will get into some comments as well. Because Rangers were started really well. Igamane and his performance shouldn't be overshadowed, Chris, because if he scores his 4th goal when he hits the post, it would have been, it already was an unbelievable performance. And I think it was a lot about him, but I actually thought Rangers created good chances. And if you saw his movement for the goals, peeling off the centre-backs, 2 cutbacks, goal, we've not really seen, I think, Rangers scored those type of goals that regularly away from home. Quite often we spoke about it being a case of individualism, and don't get me wrong, there was obviously the individual aspect of Igamane's goals. But Rangers attacked well, and David Gray, interestingly, I think the game changes at half an hour, Chris, because although Rangers still go 3-2 in the second half after the game's gone 2-2, they never reclaimed the control they had from the first 30 minutes. And David Gray, in his press conference, which people can watch on our YouTube channel, spoke about Hibs making a tactical change around about that time. He said they were too aggressive at the start. Is it as simple a case as saying that Rangers played really well into space and all the things we've spoken about before, but when they were given a little bit more of the ball and when the tempo of the game did die down, they struggled to kind of exert that same control because there was a lot of good football in that first 30 minutes, but Rangers then contrived to go and lose the remaining 60 minutes 3-1, and they should never have done that from that position of dominance which they'd put themselves in. Even if the game had went on and ended 2-0, they needed to see it out in some capacity from that advantage.
And I think that's where the manager will take a bit of criticism. So yes, it's a much changed back 4. Yes, it's a team who put in a big effort on Thursday. We spoke about that before the game. That the manager go and see him again. When you get to that stage, when you're 2-0 up at Easter Road, it becomes a game management issue. It comes a case of you see it out. Now that's not you stick 10 men behind the ball and you just try and defend your way out of it. But you have to manage the game better. When Hibs then get one, you don't give them the chance to start even before the penalty, which I know we'll come on to. Hibs started the second half in the ascendancy as well, because that first goal, which Rangers don't deal with at all, is a really soft one to lose. Interview with Liam Kelly is on the site tomorrow, and he can address some of those feelings in that moment. When you lose a soft first one, you then can't give Hibs any more momentum in the game. You then do everything right, or you do a lot of things right, you get yourself back into the lead, and you then go and lose a really soft goal like that right at the end. So that's where game management comes into it. And again, people will look at you're missing Balogun, you're missing Suter, you've lost Casemiro. At that stage, also lost Dujon Sterling as well. But it's down to individuals, both in the dugout and on the pitch, to manage those situations better. And Rangers didn't do that, and ultimately that cost them. So I think the manager will take his criticism for it. The players certainly have to, because they didn't manage those situations well enough either. But in a bigger picture, I think, as I mentioned earlier on, it feeds back into the away day issues that we've seen. Yeah. As you touched on there, when teams operate in a certain way, Rangers find it really difficult to go and play their football. And it's no surprise that when Hibs changed, Rangers changed, and not for the better. They didn't adapt to it. They had so much joy when Hibs were open, when Hibs were trying to be aggressive, as David Gray said. As soon as that changed, it then didn't work for them. It didn't work for Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, so Rangers go 2-0 up. I'm just checking what the shots on target and kind of underlying numbers were. Finished actually the XG 1.66 to 1.76 in Rangers' favour, and again in the first half it was 1.03 from Rangers, 0.27 for Hibs. So kind of reflective of what you're saying there, Chris. Let's speak about the goals that Rangers conceded, because they scored 2 brilliant goals, and again we should speak about Hamza Igamane, and we will throughout the video. The first goal that Rangers concede and the third goal, both set pieces. We highlighted set pieces before the game. It's an area from which Hibs have been strong. Rangers haven't conceded that many set piece goals, but in the last couple of, especially Old Firm games, they've looked a little bit susceptible. Even Rio Hatate's chance, Ibrox, a couple of days ago that Liam Kelly did well to save, came from a set piece. I think there are 2 different types of goals to concede, Chris, because the first one is Rangers don't win like the 3rd and 4th and 5th second balls, if you will, after a free kick into the box, and they concede a shot from the edge of the area, like they did twice against Celtic. And then the set piece that Rocky Bashiri scores to equalise the game is a case of him out-jumping Leon King and out-jumping Liam Kelly as well. Both really poor goals to concede from a Rangers point of view, especially. And look, they're limited in what they have defensively. That much is true. But because they knew Hibs were strong from set pieces going into this game, you'd imagine a fair bit of work was done on that, and they'll be disappointed to have conceded twice from those situations.
Because those are goals that are easily preventable. You look at the goals that Rangers scored, and there's some good moments of play in there. And no doubt David Gray will look at them and he will assess individual mistakes. Certainly in terms of the first one, Bashiri should have done a whole lot better against Igamane. But you can then look at the other goals that Rangers score and say there's some good individual moments in there, there's some real moments of quality in there. Did Hibs have to work that hard for their goals? Not as hard as they should have done. And I think that's what will really frustrate Clement. Will certainly frustrate the goalkeeper in the back four. But as a whole team, did Rangers make Hibs work hard enough for them? And I don't think the answer is yes. Now, yes, there are defensive issues in there in terms of personnel. The manager touched on that in his press conference. He didn't have an update on Dujon Sterling, unfortunately, so we don't know what the issue is in terms of a timescale on him. He didn't sound overly optimistic of Leon Balogun being back soon, and he said that John Suter is still several weeks away, and I think that will be a real blow, because obviously he spoke a couple of weeks ago and he put a rough timescale on it, saying he won't play this year. We're obviously a couple of games into the new year now, and by the sounds of he's still several weeks away. So January transfer window obviously open. He didn't really want to go into that at all. He's really kind of passed those questions into Patrick Stewart's inbox over the last couple of weeks. So there's Rangers ultimately and definitely do need centre-half reinforcements. If it's not going to come by players coming back, they have to go do something in the transfer market. because they're down to the bare bones there, and that level of defensive performance, it's not going to inspire confidence. It's not going to give people confidence heading to Dens Park in midweek, and ultimately that level of performance, giving away goals in that manner, it's not good enough. It's not going to be conducive to Rangers turning around their campaign.
Yeah, and Robin Proper, I think Robin Proper's yellow card, presumably it's a 7-day wait for that to kick in as well. So I think it said on Sky he misses a Dundee game, but would it not be the game after that, Chris? I don't know.
We had a quick check of the SFA rulebook when we were waiting on the press conference starting, so we don't think it is Dundee. We think it's the game after that. So St Johnstone at Ibrox next Sunday, I think, is the one for Proper. Which again, when you then tie that into Balogun not being back yet, Suter again definitely going to miss that one by the sounds of it. Rangers have a real shortage and a real issue at centre half.
Yeah, we'll get to some comments, Chris, before we speak about the penalty that Clement was very unhappy with. Robert Burns simply stopped doing all the good stuff halfway through the first half. Mark echoing a lot of comments. When are we going to get an aggressive centre half? None of them demand the box. None go and attack headers. Mac, a friend of the show. Afternoon, guys. That one's not on PC, but the players, we shouldn't give away a lead and not see the game out once back in front. Colin conceded 2+ against Motherwell, Aberdeen, St Mirren, Celtic, Hibs away from home. Gerrard had the same issue, and it wasn't fixed until we signed Helander and Palagan. We need all caps defenders. Chris, let's speak about, we'll get back to defenders, but let's speak about the penalty claim. Clement was very unhappy with it. I think that while you can, I've only seen it once or twice, but while you can freeze frame who had the first contact, there's a bit of naivety in that challenge, because the attacker's always going to get the benefit of the doubt. But I also then, it's a little bit like, not dissimilar to the Arsenal one. I don't know if you saw the Arsenal one last night against Brighton, where it was a bit of a strange collision. And Mikel Arteta was saying after that he's never seen a penalty like it. So you can understand on one hand why Clement is unhappy with it. I think you can also understand why it's given. But what I would say is that I still don't think that's the reason Rangers dropped points, because yes, they got themselves back into a lead after that. Hibs also hit the post with a game at 2-2, and had that game went 3-2 in Hibs' favour, the momentum would have totally swung around from Rangers being 2 goals ahead.
I do get where the manager's coming from. I do understand the point that he's making. You don't see penalties given for that every single week. On first viewing, when I saw Hadji make the challenge, I thought it was a penalty. I've seen the replays since. I can understand why the referee has given it. I don't think it's the biggest injustice that Rangers have faced of late. There's obviously more high profile ones than that. And so I understand what Clement's saying. That it's a coming together. It's a collision. Yeah. Is it a challenge that Hadji really has to make in that moment? I don't think so. Can you understand why the referee has given it? Yes, it's obviously been checked by VAR, because they check everything. Clement said he'll be interested to see what Willie Collum says next time the VAR show comes out. I don't think that one will get quite as high a viewing numbers as the post League Cup final one, but it's certainly going to be interesting to see what the panel makes of that one. Ultimately, if the panel comes out and says it was the wrong decision, that doesn't help Rangers, because the damage has been done. But as you say, that only made it 2-2. It's not as if that was a defining moment. It's not as if that was the last minute goal that cost them. Rangers still have chances after that. They can still manage the game better after that. They still get themselves back ahead after that. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest. You can sometimes use referee decisions, or you can use penalty decisions to kind of deflect a wee bit. I don't think Clement's trying to do that too much, but I think it becomes a slightly easier narrative to say that's what cost us. Ultimately, I don't think that's what cost Rangers today. Rangers were not good enough in the moments that really mattered, and that's what's cost them a couple of points.
Yeah, a few more comments. Neil saying that wasn't PC's fault. In my opinion, the players took the foot off the gas. That comment sums it up. I'm not saying I'm in 100% agreement with Neil, but I do agree with part of his point here. And I'm going to pull up another comment from Ian Buchanan here, Chris. Cherney did look tired, and I was slightly surprised that there wasn't more changes, again, because of the context of the last couple of weeks. How tired that 11 probably would have been after the win against Celtic, and the fact that it was only a couple of days ago. I thought you might see more changes early in the game. I also think that we've spoken about this tons after Rangers games. I remember us speaking about it after the 1-0 win at home against, was it Dundee a couple of weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
And Rangers had created a lot of chances in that day, but we were sitting in the press room kind of saying, still quite a lot, feels quite direct. And the word that I always come back to when I watch Rangers at the moment is I never really feel like they're in control. Now, it's not to say that I don't think they're going to go and get another goal, which they almost did in the 89th minute. But do you know what I mean? I just felt like whether the Clement was too slow to change something tactically, whether it was about energy, or whether it's just about the style of football that is more about ball progression, I think, than ball possession. Sometimes you do lose the ball in areas with the players in big spaces, high and wide, both fullback and winger. So while maybe it's on the players, I also think that this type of game is just a little bit of a byproduct sometimes of the style of play that Rangers have. Is that fair? You were the one in the stadium, so you probably got a better sense of it. But because it did feel, as soon as Hibs got that first goal, like the whole tone of the game changed. And I felt like Rangers just needed more spells with possession of the ball.
I think it comes back to, again, the point that we've made after quite a lot of games, certainly a lot of the narrower games earlier on in the season.
Yeah,
they're almost a flip of a coin. Sometimes Rangers win them, sometimes Rangers don't win them, and ultimately that's not a good enough position to find yourself in. That control aspect of it, I think, has been a big issue over the course of the season. It's someone taking responsibility, someone just putting their foot on the ball, someone calming things down, someone showing a wee bit of leadership, and that then has to spread throughout the team. Now the manager will say it's a younger team, it's younger players, all the key buzzwords and all the phrases that I've heard before. It comes down to, as I mentioned earlier on, game management and being able to see these type of games out. Teams that challenge for titles, teams that win titles, they don't make these mistakes. You maybe get a couple of these over the course of a season. Rangers make them far too often. Their away record, as we said at the top of the show, speaks for itself. It's nowhere near good enough. And there's themes throughout a number of the away games. It's similar issues, similar mistakes, and ultimately they then lead to the same outcome. So it's definitely something that has to improve. Again, as we spoke about pre-match, there's certain games it feels like you would back Rangers to go and do well in. Some of the European games, the Old Firm game was obviously a one that people perhaps didn't expect it, but they then turned up and they produced a really accomplished performance on that day. Certain other games, like to this one, like to going to Dundee on Thursday. No one's heading to Dundee on Thursday now expecting Rangers to be as good as they were against Celtic. They're expecting Rangers to be as inconsistent as they were in this one, as they have been at Motherwell, they have been at St Mirren, they have been in other away games, and that's the problem that the manager has to solve. So yes, there's personnel issues, but there's an approach problem that Rangers going into these away games, they have to find a way to win them. Doesn't always need to be pretty, doesn't always have to be great football, but it has to be effective. And Rangers on the road, they're not effective enough. And technically, I think we should end on Igamane. When you have a guy that scores a hat-trick, a perfect hat-trick, now left foot, right foot header, when you've got a guy like that who puts in a performance like that, he deserves to go home with 3 points. And I think he can feel somewhat hard done by as he sits in the team bus round about now.
Yeah, I think you can simultaneously say that circumstances are difficult when you've not got defenders. If Rangers have a Liam Balogun or a John Souttar, do they concede that corner? Maybe not. Equally, Hibs could have gone 3-2 up when they hit the post, and Rangers' lack of control in away games is a pattern because they've only won once by more than one goal. I think they've only won 4 times. I believe the stat on Sky was 4 wins away from home in the last 15 domestic trips away from Ibrox, which isn't great. And Ross agrees with you. Igamane, absolutely outstanding, so unlucky at the end. We'd be having a very different tone of conversation, I think, Chris, because Rangers would have won. Even if they'd conceded those goals, had Igamane not hit the outside of the post but hit the inside. And he was very unfortunate to not be on the winning team. But we'll leave it there. We're going to get you out Vista Road, which will be getting, I'm sure you'll be one of the last people in it at the moment. We'll be live, of course, for the morning briefing tomorrow. A reminder, if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do for free and subscribe to the website too. Loads of content to come your way throughout a busy January. Until then, thank you for joining us, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.